And me, I was there too, so I was like, thump, thump, uh-oh. Time to beat feet. Head back to the van, guys. Oh, too far up. Tell some jokes. I don't know. There's a monk. What is it? A monk? A priest? No, it doesn't matter. You just need at least a couple. And a rabbit walked into a bar. They said to the rabbit, "What are you doing here?" I think it was a typo. Okay, that wasn't funny.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it? You did get it. A rabbit instead of a rabbi.
Oh, God, I couldn't get that part.
So, yeah. Typo jokes. I'm typo, actually. Anybody needs fresh blood? O negative, so I'm a universal donor. Except I lived in Europe, so theoretically I'm not allowed to donate because there might be free prions in my blood. And I'm okay with that because I hate needles, hypodermic needles. I don't like them. Well, I'm going to get started. There's so much interesting stuff to cover.
I got a joke for you.
Davai.
How many philosophers does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't think they can, actually.
Depends on how you define change.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's got to be somebody on call, to go get it and fix it. Notice that we're not allowed to touch the light bulbs in this building.
You totally analyzed that joke way too much.
I've heard it before. It's automatic. I know how to discuss it. Okay, so people I want to mention that are kind of significant, if you haven't heard of them before. St. Francis is another. I meant to ask ChatGPT if saints, any of the official saints, ever had children. I don't think so. But I think having children is actually indicative of having sinned. And saints aren't supposed to have sinned. Hence the silly thing about St. Thomas Aquinas, did he chase a prostitute out of the tower with a flaming brand or torch? It's got to be a silly. I can't believe that actually happened. The parents would have done that. Maybe. Who knows? In any case, St. Francis is a. The trouble with St. Francis for me was the more I found out about him, the more horrible he looked. Because he's the
Saints have had children.
Tortured his body, tortured. Just self-mutilation practically. I don't know, but starving himself. The attitude still is Augustinian, and that is the idea of the soul is the most important thing, and so the body is corrupt, and what you want to do is control the body, punish the body so that it's not corrupting your soul. So kind of the spare the rod, spoil the child kind of attitude towards your own body. But he is amazing. He starts the Franciscan order. So if you've heard of the Franciscans, he's the one that founded that. His good friend Claire is the one who started a group of nuns as well. But there was a neat movie when I was a kid. If you're familiar with the Zeffirelli movie, Romeo and Juliet, Zeffirelli made another movie with the same kind of music, the same kind of scenery and the clothing, very rich, fascinating stuff. And it was called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, and it was about St. Francis and Clare. And the neat thing about the movie is Alec Guinness is the Pope in the movie. That's kind of fun if you like Alec Guinness. Remember, he was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first Star Wars movie. That kind of thing is interesting. Kind of an interesting thing too is that St. Francis actually went on the Crusades and engaged with the advisors to I don't think it was Saladin at the time, but he talked with the advisors and learned a lot about Islam, and his most famous prayer is really based on the Quran. That's kind of interesting. So he's interesting. Then we've got Ignatius Loyola. And Ignatius Loyola is the founder of the Jesuits. So that's the, yes.
Maybe you know, it says that, it said in the clip, right before you clipped, it said, was, oh, there, it says down at the bottom, he was beatified in 1609.
Beatified.
Beatified.
Yeah, that's the last part of the process of making them a saint. We just had a new saint, a modern saint, who was a computer gamer, as I understood it. That was kind of interesting. He was just beatified. So, did it look like beautified? Because they don't beautify them. That's kind of not the thing. But yeah, the Jesuits are kind of like the Marines. In my mind, they're kind of like the Marines of. You can't become a Jesuit unless you've already studied philosophy to the point where you've engaged all of the doubts that you could possibly have, and then you can become a Jesuit. So they're usually very highly educated individuals. So another one, and the saints that found orders like Ignatius of Loyola, St. Francis, are all, in a sense, trying to reform the church. They're finding things problematic with the church, and trying to fix that. Shoot, my mouse is not. Let's go back. Do this. St. Benedict is the one who founded the Benedictines, another order that you can think of. And all these orders are non-secular. When we first come across the word secular, it doesn't mean non-church. It means the priests that are primarily for the parishes. So the parish priests, the ones that are trained in they're still trained in seminaries, but the seminaries are not connected to an order, and the parish priests do not take the same vows as the ones in the different orders. So you end up with really kind of, they're more able to own things. They can own property. can't marry, although that doesn't occur until I think around 1100. Let me, when did the Catholic Church start the requirement, here we go, to be celibate? So basically, as I understand it, late 11th century, so it would be 10 something. And as I understand it, the main reason that they made that requirement was because if the priest was married and had children, a lot of priests wanted to enrich their children. And so what happened was they started to use church property. They took it and kept it from the church and gave it to their families. And so in order to prevent that loss of property, the church stopped allowing priests to be married. That's kind of interesting. But today we're primarily going to talk about St. Thomas. Aquinas. There's other Thomases. I think in Greek the word Thomas means the twin, so there's all kinds of puzzlement over who Thomas was the twin of. Some argue that he was the twin of Jesus, which, that's interesting. Doubting Thomas he was, so he's the one with the story where Jesus resurrected from the dead and appeared before them, and he was the one that didn't believe it, and so Jesus invited him to put his hand in his side and feel the holes in his hands and stuff. And but other apostles, didn't doubt. They didn't need to see that. So, doubting Thomas. But Thomas Aquinas, that kind of reason that he's so significant is because, well, I'll get into it. Let's just talk about his when he was born. Notice he's 2025, roughly, about. The C there means about, not like BC or CE or common or, but so about 2025. I'm not really sure. And as a kid, he's studying in the Benedictine seminary very, very early as a kid, but his parents want him there. His parents want him to become a Benedictine because it was an older order that had been around, and they had the monastery close to where he was born, Aquino. And it was the monastery of Monte Cassino where they sent him, and that was a very rich, very powerful order, even though it's kind of crazy because the orders officially, individuals have a vow of poverty, but the order itself becomes rich. And there's conflicts between the Vatican and the monasteries because the Vatican wants some of that. And the monasteries keep arguing, but it's not our property. It's, we don't actually own it, so we it's not like profit that we should give to the Vatican, but, so there's very clear fighting over who gets the money, etc. And a lot of them were quite powerful. By the way, the French Revolution, one of the things that the French did was take away all the monasteries and take all the wealth. And notice King Henry VIII famously did the same thing in England when he decided to become the head of his own church and kick the Pope out of the. But so, as a kid, he's in the Benedictine monastery, but he ends up then going and studying in Naples, I think it was, where he first ended up studying with Albertus Magnus. And I'll give you a quick look at him. Albertus Magnus, also a saint. Great. Magnus just means great. And so he's the one that is open to studying Aristotle. And, you know, how did Aristotle get in? There's considered to be quite a few routes. The Crusades themselves, with the monks that accompany the Crusades, and then talk with educated people in the Middle East and learn from them. And then they bring it back home, and it spreads. And the other route would be through the universities in Spain, which were they were Islamic there. There were Christians, there were Jews, there were Islamic people in Spain, because up until El Cid, who was the famous Spanish warrior that kicked the Moors out of Spain, the Moors were Islamic, and so actually Spain, as we can understand it now, was really much more educated, much more open to differences, so that the various people all were allowed to live in harmony there, and they did really well. When the Christians kicked the Moors out, they started imposing the requirement that everybody be Christian, and if you were Jewish, even if you converted, if you were Jewish, they still didn't trust you. So a lot of the Jews left. So that also meant a lot of the wealth went. That was kind of interesting. They moved to the Netherlands, most of them. It's kind of interesting. Or they moved into Africa. And one of the ones that moved into Africa was Moses ben Maimon. Moses ben Maimon Moses ben Maimon ended up becoming the counselor and doctor to Saladin. It doesn't work. We had a smart board once that did do that. But if you go have a quick look at Saladin, he was the one that unified at the time. They were, by the way, you know what? I'm sorry. I should have shown you this too. Let's go here first. Spell it right, but let's go back a little bit and talk about Muhammad. May his name be praised, which is the official requirement, I believe, if you're going to say. Muhammad grew up in a village that was that included a Jewish sect, and the Jewish sect believed that Jesus was a prophet but not God. So they were actually a Jewish Christian sect of a type, right? And so if you're familiar with Islam does believe that Jesus was a prophet but not God. In fact, of course, the biggest argument they have against Christianity is Christianity doesn't seem to be a monotheistic religion as far as they're concerned, because you have a triune God, right? You have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, right? So Muhammad apparently, how did it occur? Well, the Byzantine Empire had trouble. It collapsed. And there was a gap, a social gap that opened up for the Arab tribes to unify and essentially overpower very rapidly all of North Africa,